Welcome to Tiny Texas Living. Who says you can't live big while living tiny? It's I don't even know, day 3, I guess, of getting ready for the really bad stuff. I just got dressed. I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to go ahead and get a few things that I need that I want to go ahead and cook. If I can cook these up, then I'll have some extra food ready already. And yesterday I did something kind of interesting. I just decided that I was going to try to help out others because, let's face it, a couple of years ago it was real rough. It was super, super rough. And seeing people struggle without power, it killed me. It really did. So I wanted to try to give some of the knowledge that I have from being on the road to help others. And so I put up a TikTok and then also just a post here. It was the same thing. But the one on TikTok took off and a bunch of Texans were seeing it specifically, which is great because those are the people I really hoped would see it. And now it has over 200,000 views, which, okay. And there's the normal people in there who are like, you're overreacting, it's not that bad. And then there are people who are like, Texas just needs to learn to stay warm and stuff like that. And I get their point because most states are designed for infrastructure that allows them to do okay during the bad weather. But here, it's just not like that. I remember when I lived in Dallas and we had a really bad snow and they called it Snowmageddon. And when that happened, even though Dallas is a major city and even though the surrounding areas are major cities, they weren't getting out on the roads and fixing the roads. They just weren't. They were not making it where it was safe to drive. And even though the roads weren't really super safe, some companies that didn't have offices locally were still requiring people to come into work, even though it was super treacherous and dangerous. And I remember having to go to my job, and it took me 2.5 hours to drive to my job, which was normally a 15-minute commute. And it was the scariest driving I'd ever done in life. And I don't think people from out of state just realize how bad it really, truly, genuinely is here when it comes to just little things that normally there is some kind of rhyme or reason to answer. There's not snow chains here. There's not tracks that you wear on your feet. There's not any of those things. And typically the only time they get out in times that people aren't on the roads. So they kind of wait. And then they go out there and they do that. And so just that was really bad. But then cut to a couple years ago, whenever I was living here, and it was so cold that it stayed sub-zero for days. And we froze our well. We lost one of our heaters because it was just overworked because it couldn't keep up even at a low temperature setting. And we had to end up putting plastic over all of our windows and taping them up because even though this house right here, well-insulated house, it was just cutting through it like it was nothing. I think the bigger picture that most people don't understand when they're watching from afar or seeing videos like this from afar where people are literally freaking out in the comments is that here we don't have those things. And they sent out notifications to a lot of people already saying that, oh yeah, we fixed the power grid. But those same people are showing now that they have been told that they will likely lose power. The other night, the windstorm, 50,000 in just my region lost power. And the linemen are hard at work, so they're trying to fix it. But at the same time, it's not the linemen who are the problem. It's the bigger picture of the overall situation with the power grid here. And you see it on the news, people talk about it, and you see Texans that are saying that was scary, I was traumatized, I lost family members, and a lot of people just pass that off as, oh, you guys just need to suck it up. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Whenever we get stuck in these situations, if there's any moisture, again, the roads aren't passable. If the power's gone, the grocery stores are closed, and there's nothing we can do about it. And there were people who were literally stuck on roadways last time for hours upon hours upon hours because no one could get there to help them. And it's really scary to think that they are saying that this could potentially be another situation for the grid. So, even though it seems a lot to be like, oh, I'm going to prepare my home, and oh, I'm going to protect my pipes, and oh, I'm going to try to help others by sending out that TikTok. ultimately, if even one person is able to do something that makes them feel more comfortable about being in their existence, I am all for it, because that was not good. The tiny home that I live in, it is a pier and beam tiny home. So it's up. It has a little air area under my house. And even though it has a built-up foundation of stone, it still has these little air gaps. Last time, it was so cold that even putting your foot on the ground made your foot feel like it was going to shatter into a million pieces, even with thick thermal socks or insulated socks or heated socks. It did not matter. And having to tape up the doors was something I never thought would happen. I taped up literally every single door, every single window, and I basically ended up trying to just like lock myself into one room to keep the heat in that space, because it was too hard, even in a tiny home, to keep it warm. The anxiety within just builds, even having to remember that. And the next few days, it's supposed to start off real strong. The wind started to usher it in, but during the days, it's still been pretty nice. So since I can't control what's coming toward me, I can definitely control what I'm doing to take care of myself. I thought that today, since it is still like a day away from whenever it's supposed to get real nasty, that this would be a great time to go to the store. I'm already stocked up on most of the supplies that I need, but there's a few things that I could get just so that I can cook them up in advance. And then if I need to, I can always throw them into my van fridge if I need to, because the power has gone out. So I figured I would go ahead and get a few things that kind of just make sense. Also, I don't have a lot of refrigeratable groceries because since I checked my fridge and now I have eaten some of those things, I need to restock. See, out here, it's looking pretty decent right now, except for those limbs that fell. We decided not to pick those up because there's probably going to be more that start to fall. And so we're gonna get those all cleaned up after the windstorms. Here I have a sunny kitty who's basking in the sun. Look at you. I am gonna go ahead and check the heaters just to make sure they're still good. I do that every day. It's just a maintenance thing because when heaters haven't been on in a year, you wanna make sure that they're still working right so they don't burn your house down. So off to do that, and then off to the van and then to the store. Okay, it's showing that it's pretty warm in here. It's already met its expectations, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off, and I'll turn it back on before I go to bed this evening. Yesterday we worked really hard to get the last few Christmas decorations, and we just brought them in here because it was getting kind of late, but we're going to put these in the container a little bit later so that they can be put away. So this space will be clear again after all the work that we did, but the Christmas decorations are down. I know, again, most people would have already taken them down, and that's fine. That is fine. I just really enjoy Christmas, and so it goes from this beautiful twinkly wonderland to darkness in the yard. And if I could get away with having lights up all year just because it's so magical looking, I totally would. But I still have the floodlights, which I can change the colors of, so I'm going to be repositioning those sometime in the future to use them more as like security lights, and I'll probably just drop them over to the white, but I'm kind of thinking I can change them out periodically for the different seasons, but that's neither here nor there today. Today we're talking about the preparedness, and because of that, I'm getting on the road. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get my mail real quick, then buckle up. There's a grocery store in my little hometown area, and then there's a Walmart. So I'm gonna try to go to the grocery store to see what they have in way of meat, because it's usually better price there. And then I just want to get some like little pork chops that I can air fry, and usually they have a 4 for $20 special, and you can get different kinds of meat. So I figured if I could get the other kinds, I could freeze it, and then I can always put it in my refrigerator / freezer after. So I figured that if I can find a few things, if we do lose power, I'll just get things that I know will fit in my tiny fridge, and if worse comes to worse, I'll go and put it in my parents' van fridge because theirs is much larger. But in a perfect world, I'm just going to go ahead and cook up a little bit of food. That way I don't have to worry about the power, and I should be good to go. I'm hoping, again, crossing my fingers, that we don't lose power, because the last time, whenever we did still have power, that's when we experienced all those things, even with power. So I can only imagine it will be much worse without. Now, I have camped in some really cold temperatures before, and I know how to bundle up and keep my body warm. So that's the first thing. And I have the equipment to do that, so that's the second thing. But still, preparing is never something that's super settling. It's just not. But, you know, at this point, I'm 7 years into a road trip across America, and I've been doing this for a while. And even though I typically try to avoid bad stuff, sometimes you're just there and you have to make do. Okay, so my hair's doing all sorts of crazy things with the wind, but I was able to get everything I needed for the most part. I have one more stop I'm gonna make. I'm not going to go to Walmart. I just really don't like to go to Walmart. It seems like, especially whenever the weather is bad, it just gets swamped there and then it's harder to find stuff. And so since I was able to get most of the things that I need, I feel much better. The 4 meat sale, such a good deal. Berkshire's is kind of known for that, so yeah, definitely helps out quite a bit. And the portion sizes of those are big enough for a family to eat, but also big enough for me to have a couple of meals out of each one of those. So that works out pretty well. I do need to go to the Dollar General, which is right over here though, and see if I can get a last minute couple of things that I couldn't find in the grocery store. Surprisingly, even though the shelves had lots of stuff, there were a few things that were missing. Literally right down here. So super easy to get to, and makes my life a little bit easier not having to go all the way across town to the Walmart. Even though I am happy that we have one close to my tiny home, it doesn't make it feel any less aggressive to go in there whenever it's packed. Okay, I made it home. Now it's time for me to go and bring in all the things, organize, and prepare for the next steps. So, it's pretty nice outside today. So far, so good. I am kind of concerned though, because again, a lot of people aren't really doing as much to prepare. So, it's okay. Everybody has their own method to their madness. I just choose to be more prepared versus less, just based on what happened last year. And it is a little bit easier for me just based on the fact that I do van life and typically have to deal with things like this already. So it is what it is. I did get home and Tiny is up here. Oh, poor little Tiny. Tiny's had a really rough existence and typically hides because Tiny had a run-in with some dogs. And because of that, poor little Tiny is a bit skittish. Like if I were to get any closer than I am, Tiny would run. I have noticed though that Tiny is being very receptive to the little house that we put out. So I'm hoping that Tiny will get in there. I also picked up a little bit of tuna for the cats because I want them to eat as much as they can so that they can be warmer because they have more on their bodies over the next few days. So that was another reason I needed to go to the store. Meanwhile, it looks like somebody's in there having a little kitty nap. And someone's over here having a little kitty nap also. That one is brave. Again, even though I can't pet some of them, I named them so I could talk to them and hopefully earn their trust by continuing to talk to them and saying the same things over and over. And it seems to be working. I've gotten to where I can pet a couple more of them now. Now, picking them up is a different story, but they're trusting me enough to at least do the pets. So that's good. But as for now, it's time to get the things out of my van that I purchased and take them in. I still have a few Christmas lights to take down over here, but I'm gonna work on those. But I parked on the side of the house so I could be further away from this tree that has the limbs. This tree right here, it's huge and it's tall, and these limbs just creak and crack when the wind blows, and we've had several of them starting to shed. And since they haven't come out to trim it yet, I just don't want to be parked anywhere near it. Okay, I was able to get all of these things for about $80, and considering that that is all filled with meat right there, that's pretty good. I also picked up some various items that I could use if I don't have power, some like chips and things like that, even though they're not something that I would want to eat just for dinner. If worse comes to worse, I have that to work with other things. I also picked up some tortillas. I have some meat I can cook up for the tortillas, or if I decide to have Mountain House, I like to have like breakfast with the tortillas. It just makes them even better. So that's that. I also picked up some more cheese. Again, things that I'll be able to put into my refrigerator should I need to. Hopefully I can just use this one though, but we'll see, we'll see. The nice thing is I can lock my van from here and I'm good to go. Now, if the weather does get really bad, I'll go start my van at least a couple times just to make sure that it's good, but otherwise I'm not gonna go anywhere. I'm just gonna stay here. If the weather gets bad and the roads get gross, there's no infrastructure to fix them, so I'm just gonna wait it out. No big deal. But in the meantime, I am now set. I have power, I have water, I have food of all kinds, and on top of that, I have some things that I can do. I downloaded some Netflix early, so even if I don't have power, I can still watch something. And if I do have power, but I don't have internet, I also have DVDs that I can watch because, well, let's face it, those are all the variables. All in all, I think I'm pretty prepared. So now I just wait it out.